In this video, we'll review how to use Excel's data table function to do sensitivity analysis. Remember, sensitivity analysis is checking to see how an outcome changes when inputs into a model are varied within reasonable ranges. So for example, this spreadsheet has a very simple model that calculates yearly fuel cost based on three inputs: miles driven per year, average miles per gallon, and fuel costs per gallon. So right now I can see that if I drive 10,000 miles per year and average 20 miles per gallon and fuel costs $3.75 per gallon, that I'll spend $1,875. But I might reasonably expect, I don't think it's certain that I'll drive 10,000 miles in a year. So I might want to see what happens if I vary that miles driven, say from 7,000 miles per year to 13,000 miles per year. I can do it by changing it here and see how the outcome changes. But I'd rather see all the outcomes together in one table. And that's what Excel's data table function is for. So what I'm going to do over here to the right is I'm going to write down the inputs that I'm going to vary. So I'm going to vary miles driven per year from 7,000 to 13,000 miles. So there's 7,000, 8,000. Once I've started this, if I highlight both of those, select both of those, and drag down, Excel is smart enough to continue the series. So those are my miles driven. To the right of each of those, I want to put what would be the yearly fuel cost at that level of miles driven. So I'm going to arrange this into a table. And this is exactly what Excel's data table function is for, to do these kind of calculations. To get this to fill in automatically, the first thing we need to do is in the top right, so one column to the right and one row above the first input, we have to either put a formula for the outcome or put a reference to where that formula is. Well, the outcome that we're interested in here is yearly fuel cost. So in this cell, I'm just going to type equals and then click on the yearly fuel cost there. Now, to get this table to fill in, the first thing is you have to select the whole table, including the row above the first input. Then you go to the Data tab, What If Analysis, and select Data Table. This is asking you, if you have numbers going across in a row, where do you want to input them into your model? Column input cell is if you have numbers going down in a column, where do you want to input them into your model? We don't have any numbers going across in a row. The inputs we're trying to vary are going down in a column. And what are those? Those are miles driven. So when I plug them into the model, I want to plug them in right here. So once I've told Excel where to plug it in, I click OK, and the table fills in for me. I'm going to format these so they look a little bit better. So now I can see the yearly fuel cost for each of these levels of miles driven per year. A couple more things about the data table. Once you've entered it, you can't delete just part of it. So if I try to delete this, I get a message, cannot change part of a data table. So if you want to delete it, you have to select all the outputs and delete them together. So that gives us a chance to review how to get this to fill in. You just select the whole table, go to Data, What If Analysis, Data Table, leave row input cell blank because the inputs we're varying are in the column. In column input cell, tell where those inputs get plugged into our calculation, which is right here since they're miles driven. And that's the one-dimensional data table. You can also do a data table varying two inputs. So let me go to this next tab and show that. For example, what if we want to vary miles driven per year and the fuel cost? So let me vary miles driven from 5,000 to 15,000. Once I get 5,000 and 6,000, I can just drag it down to continue the series. And I want to vary my fuel cost from $3.50 to $4 in 10-cent increments. So $3.50, $3.60, and so on. And I'm going to format these so they look better. These are currency. These I'll see the comma. Okay. For this type of a data table, you also have to tell Excel what is the outcome that you want to see in all these empty cells. And you need to put it in the top left corner. So we do the same thing. We type equals and then click on where our outcome of interest is calculated. Now to get the table to fill in, we select the whole table just like before. Go to Data, What If Analysis, Data Table. This time we do have inputs in the row across the top. Those are fuel prices. So they get plugged in the model here. Now I go back down to column input cell. Again, these are miles driven per year, so they get plugged in here. When I click OK, the table fills in. I have a little bit of formatting to do. Change these to currency. Take out the places after the decimal. Same thing here. Take out the places after the decimal. And there I have my table. One last tip. This number sitting here in the corner doesn't look right. So one way, you can't delete it or the table won't work. But one way to make it look better is change the text color to white so it doesn't show up. So that's one way. And let me go back to the one variable data table tab to show another way. Another way to get rid of this is to change it to a custom format so that no matter what is in that cell, what shows up is some text. So to do that, I select the cell, go to this format selector and go down to the bottom, more number formats, and I want to select custom format. Then right here in the type, in double quotes, I want to type what I want that cell to say. So I want it to say yearly fuel cost, or just fuel cost, since our column isn't very wide. So I have fuel cost in double quotes, click OK. Now, if I select that cell, I can see what's really in there is a formula that says equals C7. But no matter what's in that cell, what's going to show up is just the text fuel cost.